Okay, now that you've seen urban hazards and techniques and camouflage and terrain usage in the last video, I'm going to show you in this video more of a rural one. In my personal opinion, I believe that rural is better because you have more places to hide, for sure. I mean, not that there's not a lot of places in a city you can hide, of course there is, but in rural there's more open spaces, there's more woods, and there's definitely a lot more vegetation, like I said before, coniferous trees like pines that protect your IR signature, among other things. Now, I take you back to the first story, which was rural based, which is about Br0ken B0w right here in Oklahoma. Now, after the partisans were forced out, you know, from after these scouts, these Cav scouts from the 127th Light Mech Infantry Division from their recon battalion, after this Cav scout company found them and they had their huge battle here, well, it was a skirmish, really. It lasted 45 minutes, but they really opened up on each other. I mean, the machine gun nests of the partisans began to really open up, and so did the IFVs and APCs of the enemy, of the Chi-Coms, and their forces and their troops. But all that aside, when they were forced to become semi-nomadic, what you had was then you had Operation Skull Bash, which was when, like I said before, when Chi-Com and allied forces went up the valley after him. Now, what you had at the very end of the valley, at that time, toward the end of Operation Skull Bash, is you had the Spetsnaz dropped off on the mountains to go hunt for the partisans, mainly looking for their leadership, like Jim and the others. And what you see here is one Spetsnaz squad being fast roped out of their hind. They were using hinds from the VVS, the Russian Air Force hinds, as helos in the Russian military belong to the Air Force and not the Army, like many other militaries. So what you see here is a squad of Spetsnaz being dropped off by fast rope. And this is only one helo doing this here. There are many, many other helos doing this. They were all dropping off their squads to go up the mountains to hunt for the leadership. Now this is before Part 65. This is like right before Part 65. I believe it was Part 63 and on, when the Spetsnaz was sent into the mountains to clear the mountains of partisan elements. You can see the guys in the helo about ready to descend. The others are in a diamond formation pattern. And you can see that they're on a plateau. You see where the elevation changes and how it goes up. Well, what they did was they went up, and if you can remember, by that point, the partisans were digging in the mountainside. This is a tunnel that they dug in, just like they had at their original base camp. Here's some foxholes, large foxholes, for keeping watch over the ridge. And you can see the elements of the Spetsnaz are going up there after them. And you remember the part where they attacked the trailer and eliminated and captured some of the partisans there before the battle really opened up. Now, the elevation kept going up, and there were other partisan elements higher up. And the Spetsnaz ended up getting into a huge battle with them. But the point of all this is to say this, is that in rural areas, you have more room to operate. And I take you back now to transportation, because in rural areas, the partisan elements there made use of such types of transportation and used it to form a rapid deployment element, because Jim was former military, if you remember. Many of the partisan leaderships were either war veterans themselves, or they were actual ex-defunct military from the defeated U.S. military. And they led the rest of the people and trained them up to be more effective. Now, toward the Battle of Millerton, near the toward the end of the story, when the Chi-Coms came to recapture Millerton because the partisans held it for a short time, they sent in their PAP armored company here of their light tanks, along with a mech infantry grenadier company from the 1st Armored Battalion of the 11th Armored Brigade, and they both converged on Millerton. The PLA came from the north, and the PAP came from the east, headed west towards Millerton, and the partisans were already occupying the town, but all these boxes are their ATVs and technicals and other modes of rapid transit that they had available to them. Now, they used them to great effect, like right here. Here's a scene from the battle. You can see one of their ATVs has a HJ-8 anti-tank missile launcher on it, and this guy's covering his ear, launching it because the backblast coming out. He's launching it at one of these Chi-Com APCs. You see the APCs coming down from the mech infantry. You can see a soldier, a Chi-Com here, shooting from behind the corner of this rubbled building. Here's a Chi-Com throwing a grenade and shooting, a few of them shooting. Here's an IFV, an infantry fighting vehicle, firing its huge 30mm, which is blasting right in front of this wall here, this blasted, ruined wall. This is on the edge of town, and this is blasting right here, and you can see this tank just fired a shell over in this direction, probably off the map here. You see this guy's laying here behind some rubble, laying down in the prone, shooting, and this guy's shooting. He just threw a grenade at the Chi-Coms. They just fired an AT missile. But the point of this is to show you that in the rural areas, and even in the second story in the suburban areas, they used ATVs to great effect. I mean, they turned them into like rapid hit and run type of elements, and they used them to that type of effect, and it was actually highly effective that way. Same with technicals until they basically, ran out of the ability to use so many of them. But they used these things to great effect, and they would hit enemy forces with them, get back on, and leave. And sometimes what they would do is they wanted to turn Millerton into a place where they can lob mortars into the fob, because they wanted to be able to hit the Chi-Com fob to show them that they weren't invincible. Because you see how close Millerton is to the municipal airport. They wanted to use this as a place to launch attacks. But at the same time, Christopher, the son of Jim, was leading his element up here to recapture the fire base in Hokatown, which is their original base camp for the partisans. He went to recapture it, and they actually managed to, and they captured a few of the Chi-Com guns intact, the field artillery. They ended up overrunning the fire base, and they did capture 2 artillery pieces and used them to hit the Chi-Com fob from there, as well as taking Millerton for a short time and hitting that, because what John had done, the ex-Special Forces operator, the ex-Green Beret, John trained up his elite team of WE to the GERs, and they went in there and did some major sabotage operations and decapitated the leadership for a time, which made it possible for them to come in, go up north, hit the industrial area that they haven't been to basically in many, many months since the occupation began, and then they had to retreat. But on the way out, they tried to hit the fob, but they realized the fob's defenses were just far too strong, so then they went back. But for a short time, they had Millerton, and they recaptured that until Chi-Com heavy reinforcements came in, which is mentioned at the end of the story, and basically they came in and took control and forced the partisans out. Very few of them survived to the end of the war. I think Jim got killed, and many of the other leaders, because this is real life and I have to keep it authentic. This story is made to be real. So, I mean, if in real life, the heroes die often. So, I think Christopher was one of the only people that survived to the end of the war, and I think he got wounded a few times in so doing. But essentially, in urban, you have the ability to make your own types of camouflage, but in rural, you can use certain types of camouflage that are commonly available, like these patterns here. You know, here I have my surplus German military uniform here, and I like their Flecktarn. This is called a Flecktarn pattern, which is a 5-color scheme pattern. It's very good for piney and woodland type of places. And you have also Realtree right here. Now, Realtree is good too. And a lot of Americans own this, especially out in rural areas. So this might become like the uniform in a foreign invasion for most people in the rural countryside. And then you have the old American woodland pattern here, like my jacket, my original jacket from the Army. And I got my helmet. I could have brought my body armor out, but I didn't. But my body armor is the exact same thing as this uniform here. It's a Flecktarn. But yeah, you have many different color schemes that work out as camouflage out in the wooded areas. So you would have these partisans roughly dressed in that type of way. You know, they would be wearing, you know, maybe their plate carriers, which ones are smart enough that own them. And, you know, some might not, like this guy. But, you know, you'd have people wearing their own camouflage, and they wouldn't really have to be improvised camouflage because they'd be operating out in wooded areas primarily. So this is rural, and my next video will be all about sanitation when living out in the field, because that's highly important, because preventing disease is highly crucial in what